I do not know who could if I could not, said Caderousse. Why, I almost lived on the same floor with the poor old man. Yes, about a year after the disappearance of his son, the poor old man died. Of what did he die? Why, the doctors called his complaint gastroenteritis, I believe. His acquaintances say he died of grief. But I, who saw him in his dying moments, I say he died of... Caderousse paused. Of what? Asked the priest anxiously and eagerly. Why, of downright starvation. Starvation! Exclaimed the abbé, springing from his seat. Why, the vilest animals are not suffered to die by such a death as that. The very dogs that wander houseless and homeless in the streets find some pitying hand to cast them a mouthful of bread, and that a man, a Christian, should be allowed to perish of hunger in the midst of other men who call themselves Christians is too horrible for belief. Oh, it is impossible, utterly impossible. What I have said, answered Caderousse, and you are a fool for having said anything about it, said a voice from the top of the stairs. Why should you meddle with that does not concern you? The two men turned quickly, and saw the sickly countenance of La Carconte peering between the baluster rails. Attracted by the sound of voices, she had feebly dragged herself down the stairs, and, seated upon the lower step, head on knees, she had listened to the foregoing conversation. Mind your business, wife, replied Caderousse sharply. This gentleman asks me for information, which common politeness will not permit me to refuse. This is Dante. I know it's Dante. Can we just ignore, can we let go of the idea that it's not Dante? Can I just go into these remaining episodes of this chapter knowing that it's Dante? VL4 wouldn't hire someone that would react to the situation of Daddy Dante's death this way. Only a son would, right? Yes. So, okay, it's Dante. And Dante loses his cool. Let's just say he loses his cool. That's obvious. But let's talk about why. So, Caderousse says that Daddy Dante died by gastroenteritis, and what that meant in the 19th century was that it was a hunger-related wasting or malnutrition. Basically what Caderousse said. He died of starvation. But what is the difference between those two things is that... Okay, hold on. Let's break this down. Caderousse says the doctor said it was gastroenteritis. Then Caderousse says that the Daddy Dante's acquaintances said that he died of grief. And then Caderousse says, no, I think, let's just call it what it is, he died of starvation. Now, gastroenteritis, as I said, was essentially a hunger-related wasting or malnutrition. And the doctors of the time used terms like that, these kind of clinical medical terms, and I'd say this still happens today, to kind of not use words that have certain connotations to them. Basically to erase the social shame that comes with the word of starvation. This is like, why beat around the bush? I'm going to, you asked for the information. I'm going to tell you the information. He died of starvation. I saw it with my own eyes. So the fact that Caderousse acknowledges that the acquaintances of Daddy Dante said that he died of grief, and that Caderousse is saying, well, I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I subscribe to what the doctors are saying, but I'm going to say it in a way that isn't going to sugarcoat it or be pretentious. He died of starvation. Now, we don't have the inner monologue or, any kind of insight into Caderousse here, but I would think that maybe he's doing that, A, because of just who he is. He's a little blustery, but also, he's a little without decorum, as we saw in those early chapters. But also, I think it's because he's so tempted by this diamond, and this is the, result of what I guess Dante's plan is here. I'm going to present him with this potential wealth if he provides me the information. Now, he doesn't put that kind of ultimatum out there to him, but he's like, I am going to be giving you 10,000 francs. Or 12,000 francs. It was supposed to be 5, now divided into 5. Now it's divided into 4 because Daddy Dante died, and so the remaining goes to the other 4 people. You get how math works. Anyway, I'm going to be giving you this $10,000 to $12,000 or francs, and because of that, you are going to give me the information I ask for. This is kind of he says to his wife at the end there, it's not out of common politeness, but I mean, it is kind of a politeness thing. You are giving me something, and so I will give you something, and I'm not going to obscure it in the way that doctors will sterilize, its meaning, and I'm not going to romanticize it in the way that the friends of Daddy Dante would. I'm going to tell it to you straight, and here it is. He's starved. But in his attempt at telling it like it is, shooting it straight, and giving, Dante the information he wants, that very thing is what triggers Dante. And who knows what would have happened. We are aware of his murderous rage at this point. Or do we know it's murderous? No, I'm making an assumption there. Vengeance is what he wants. What does that vengeance look like, though? We don't know yet. In this moment, when he loses his cool, that is where it feels like, oh, okay, he could have lashed out and taken Caderousse's life in this moment had his wife not intervened. So that's got to de-escalate the situation a little bit. Dante isn't going to exact his revenge in front of a witness, let alone someone sickly. So did his wife just save his life? Or is Dante going to get more crafty and bide his time to figure out a better way of exacting his revenge on Caderousse? How is this going to change things? Let's find out by continuing here tomorrow with more of the Count of Monte Cristo. You know where to find me. It's right here. As I said that 2 seconds ago. Okay, goodbye. The Countdown of Monte Cristo is part of the Gruntwork Podcast Network. This show is produced, edited, and hosted by Landon Solano. The original text of The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas. Theme song by Magic Solo. If you want to support the show and others like it, visit patreon.com/gruntworkpod. Thank you for listening. See you tomorrow.